Okay, here we go.
Anybody have some paper here? Yeah, I need some paper. It's just a scrap piece I picked up. One? Yeah, okay, I hope it's. Too much that's important.
Okay.
I don't have this much here.
Which Torah is it again?
It's term Memtes 49. We have started this Torah last week. And
There's no two left. One coffee?
and we said that which Arizal talks about in the beginning of Sefer Etz Chaim, and where he made the akdama that before Kadosh Baruch Hu created the world, the Kadosh Baruch Hu was just infinity, and there was no corner of room for anything else except Kadosh Baruch Hu, because Kadosh Baruch Hu is everything. How can anything else exist? Because if anything else exists, then Kadosh Baruch Hu is not everything. There's him, and there's whatever else that exists.
What's the question?
It's not a question. It's a statement.
What's the statement?
That before Hashem created the world, being that Hashem is infinite, that He's everything. There's no beginning, there's no end. Everything is a Kadosh Baruch Hu. So the existence of anything else is impossible. Because per definition, Kadosh Baruch Hu is everything. In order for something else to have an existence, to be Kadosh Baruch Hu has to stop at a certain point, and that's something else to begin. So, by quote unquote, by nature, there's nothing else that could exist besides the Kadosh Baruch Hu. I don't need this. It's just turning the pages for me.
Hot, very hot.
No, we don't need that. We have already put that aside. Yeah, okay. Just shut it off over here and turn it on the other side. Yeah. We know that you don't need it. No, just turn it off. Okay. Say that. Okay. So this is the first akdama that Rabbeinu explains. That's what Arizal says. So how did the world come into being then? If it is patently impossible. So what happened then? So the answer, I mean, how did HaKadosh Baruch Hu make the world exist if it's impossible for anything else besides HaKadosh Baruch Hu to exist? So Arizal explains that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created this kind of a vacant space, as it were. And what he did is, what does it mean, a vacant space? Vacant,
Vacuum? You mean like a vacuum?
it's a vacuum of sorts. I mean, the vacuum that we have now is a derivative,
What?
is a derivative of that vacuum. It's the physical manifestation, expression of that primordial vacuum. The primordial vacuum is conceptual. What it means is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has taken his kaviyachol, his presence, you know, the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is evident, and the fact that the HaKadosh Baruch Hu is evident, that was pushed to the side and created a vacuum. And in that vacuum, the vacuum it's just a vacuum from the expression, the fact that, in other words, that the godliness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu cannot be, it's not expressed in this area, in this vacuum, this circle is called Chol HaPamei, the vacant space. So that vacant space is something which we cannot understand. It's beyond our understanding. We said last week that you have to say two things about this vacant space. You have to say that the Kodesh Baruch Hu is not there, because otherwise nothing can exist, nothing else can exist. On the other hand, how can you say that there is any kind of reality or illusion or whatever you want without Kodesh Baruch Hu present? Kodesh Baruch Hu gives life to everything. Kodesh Baruch Hu is everything.
Want me to go do it for you?
So Rabbeinu says that like quite a few things about Kodesh Baruch Hu, and Rabbeinu Nachman says it in the 18th learning the Likutey Moharan,
I don't think I've
that
changed you.
by Kodesh Baruch Hu, B'meila, by the tzaddikim, there can be two
female
opposing expressions at the same time. Like we say, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows what I'm going to do, how can I have free choice? Everything I'm going to do, HaKadosh Baruch Hu already knows. If he already knows what I'm going to do, so how can I freely choose what I want to do? It's either or, right? Either I have free choice, or HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows everything's going to be, which means that I have to do it.
Right.
I don't really have a choice. So the concept of free choice and what are called omniscience, the Kodesh Baruch Hu knows everything, are two concepts that contradict one another. That's okay. Like Kodesh Baruch Hu, these kind of contradictions can exist. Kodesh Baruch Hu knows everything, and we have free choice. How does it work? Rabbeinu says this is one of the concepts that we will know in the future. Our minds are too small to comprehend that kind of contradiction. It's like a child that you tell them that candies will give them cavities and inoculations that will keep him healthy. But the child doesn't understand because the candy is sweet, so it's good. And inoculation hurts, so it's bad.
What?
Injection,
What?
vaccine.
Hurts?
The child knows that you give him the needle, it hurts.
Anybody knows. Huh?
Yeah, but
That's my
child-
child.
No, that it will keep him healthy, so it's good. A child cannot,
something
reconcile,
It's painful.
right? How can it be painful and good? Or how can candy be sweet and bad? Why? Because the mind of a child is very small. So the mind of a child cannot contain contradictions. The same way, our minds are like a mind of a child. When it comes to the whatever contradictions, are, that we know of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and one of them is the idea and the bechira, free knowledge and free choice. We don't understand that, but that's okay. We are the only ones who cannot understand it, because Baruch Hu understands it perfectly. The same way over here, the Chalapanun, the vacant space, you have to say two contradicting things about it. You have to say HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not there. Therefore, something else can be there. So the whole creation with all the elements is there. On the other hand, you have to say HaKadosh Baruch Hu is there, because nothing is without Hashem. Hashem is absolutely everywhere. So how can the two coexist? That's HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Nothing is possible. Another thing, it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the Shekhinah. What is the Shekhinah? The Shekhinah is the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this world, which means that the Shekhinah and HaKadosh Baruch Hu are one thing, right? The Shekhinah is only HaKadosh Baruch Hu as he is expressed here in this world, but they are one thing. On the other hand, Arizal says, and Zayah says, and Chazal says that the Shekhinah and HaKadosh Baruch Hu are kaviyachol two separate things.
Who says this?
Chazal, the Torah. There's HaKadosh Baruch Hu and there's the Shekhinah. And the whole kaviyachol, as it were, two separate entities. So how can the Shekhinah be one thing with HaKadosh Baruch Hu? And how can it be something separate at the same time? We don't understand that. It is impossible for us to understand that. But that's the way it is. The fact that you don't understand it is perfectly well.
What's the difference between a person and is separate than a Kodesh Baruch Hu, and the Shekhinah is separate than a Kodesh Baruch Hu?
You're asking very good. You're asking very, very good. But kaviyachol, the Shekhinah is that's what Kodesh Baruch Hu to a higher extent.
It's the essence.
No, don't try to explain it. Don't try to explain what it. The Shekhinah is Kodesh Baruch Hu the way he's expressed in this world. Am Yisrael is the Shekhinah. The Torah is the Shekhinah. The Mikdash is the place where the Shekhinah is. We are making places in this world. That's what we do. That's what Mishkan is all about, where the Shekhinah can reside. So we cannot explain, these two contradictions, but that's okay. Kodesh Baruch Hu is one of the kolalim, and learning about we have to understand that contradictions, but the Kodesh Baruch Hu is it's not a problem.
Maybe the Shekhinah is the influence of a Kodesh Baruch Because
The Shekhinah is the Shekhinah. The Kadosh Baruch Hu, the way he is expressed in the Bria. Baruch Hu resides, the residence of Kadosh Baruch Hu, the existence of Kadosh Baruch Hu in the world, when it's open, when it can be seen, is called Shekhinah.
What's the contradiction? I don't see the contradiction. It seems like it's just a pretty straightforward, not straightforward, but a concept of what is the contradiction?
So it means that it means that the Shekhinah and Kadosh Baruch Hu are basically one thing.
So when you say it's the expression of him, then it's.
No. When you say expression, it means it is one thing. On the other hand, we have Yichud Kudsha B'Chol Shechintei. The marriage of the Shekhinah with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. And we have all the tikkunim that we do. The Shekhinah is in Golus. The Shekhinah it's an expression. The Shekhinah is something else, like people are something else, as you're saying. The Shekhinah is a different, quote unquote, a different entity. The Shekhinah is the wife, as it were, of Kadosh Baruch Hu. And our job as Jews is to bring them together. So if they're one thing, what do you mean bring them together? That's fine. We don't understand, and it's okay. So that this statement that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is everything, that in order for the Bria to exist, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to contract his omnipresence to the sides and create sort of a vacuum of sorts. And in there, the Bria can express itself. We actually see that Rabbeinu says that the same thing is happening with a person's heart, with the midas. The tools that enable HaKadosh Baruch Hu to be expressed within the Cholapani, within the Oilimus, within this world, the Atzilus, Bria, Yatzir, Asiya. It's through the midas, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchus. These are kelim. These are tools. We explained at great length, last week, that this is like filters, like this, like that. Found different kind of parables to explain that particular thing. There's a very important understanding on the need for tzimtzum.
What?
For tzimtzum, for constriction. That without it, there can be no duality. Without it, there can be no relationship.
Yeah, well, the people, when they're getting the Torah, they complain to Moshe Rabbeinu that we can't live with Kodesh Baruch Hu. They actually, they were decent and dead. They were dead when he spoke or something like that.
Right.
Yeah. So he said, we can't take it,
Right.
So they complain.
Right. Right.
So they can't be able to be overwhelmed.
That's right.
We couldn't live.
We're overwhelmed. That's right. But I want to take it to someplace else where we can understand that principle that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu is everything, that nothing else can exist, and the Bria cannot exist. The Bria and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is about interaction between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the Bria. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted, to give men the best he could. And the best that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives is himself. There's nothing better than knowing HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Everything else that we consider good, that anybody considers good, is a trickle down from, as it were, from Kadosh Baruch Hu. Kadosh Baruch Hu is goodness itself. But it's pure goodness. It can go, when it's falling down into food, so it's a tasty food. When it goes down, into money, so you have money. When it goes down to anything that you consider good and people love you and people care for you, whatever, anything which we understand is good is basically a trickle down, a trickle effect of Kadosh Baruch Hu, of the goodness of Kadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the ultimate good. So, but that in itself alone, because Baruch Hu alone cannot exist. In order for the ultimate good to be expressed, there has to be somebody else that receives the goodness. In other words, en melech velo am. Kadosh Baruch Hu is not a king without there being somebody to accept upon themselves Hashem's, kingship.
Moshe Rabbeinu was the shliach to the point where.
I'm talking about the entire Bria, before Moshe Rabbeinu, way before Moshe Rabbeinu. In principle, en melech belo am. Anything else, anybody else, a chacham, a doctor, a musician. A musician is a musician whether he has his guitar with him or not. He's still a musician. He just not playing. But he's still a musician, or a doctor. If he has no patience, he's still a doctor. A chacham. He's still wise, even, people don't receive the wisdom from him. But a melech, if he doesn't have a nation, he's not a melech. The term king receives, its meaning only when there is people over whom the king is, reigns. He's king. That's why Kadosh Baruch Hu had to create the world, because he's king. To the expression of Kadosh Baruch Hu's kingship, the world had to be created. We can see the same principle that when everything is filled with one entity, relationship is not possible.
Everything that's was.
I'll explain. In relationship, if one party forces himself on the other, only I exist. What I says goes. That's it. No relationship is possible. What happens when a person squashes his kids? You only do what I say, that's it. I don't want anybody, okay, so as long as they are small, sad that you have to listen to you. What choice do they have? By a certain point in time, when they have enough guts, whatever it is, so they rebel against you. But one thing for sure, there's no relationship. There's no relationship. No, it's whatever the subservient, whatever it is. It's like they don't exist. Their personality has no expression. When I am the one that my word is law, and I don't hear anything, and nobody's allowed to make me upset, and whatever it is, that means there's no relationship. In order for a relationship to exist, I have to constrict, I have to be mitzamtzem my presence to here to give room for somebody else to breathe. You know what I'm saying? Then relationship is possible. That's the expression of that principle of Chal Hapanai. The Kadosh Baruch Hu Kiviyachol constricted himself so there can be a Chal Hapanai, so something else can exist, the entire Bria can exist. So the Bria can have a relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. And the same thing applies to us in this world. If in our house there's only me, who counts?
That's why Hashem changed it for Elohim. The world can't live without Elohim.
Yeah, so it cannot be only constriction. It has to be, Kadosh Baruch Hu has to bring Rachamim into it. That's a separate thing. This is something which is expressed in the spheres. But the point is that to understand the principle of why Tzimtzum was necessary, then we can understand that, in a relationship. If it's only you, then there's no relationship. That's, the difficulty, of people that have problems with relationships. To the point that it has to break apart, is because they enforce their will to such an extent that the relationship is not possible. The other side is squashed. That's kiviyachol an expression of Kadosh Baruch Hu being Ein Sof. This is just me. So Rabbeinu says, after he talks about the Kadosh Baruch Hu in that regard, he says that the same principle applies by every single person. Kadosh Baruch Hu, in that vacant space, created all the worlds, and they are the midos of Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, Chod, Yisod, Malchus. These are the kelim that constrict the godliness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so it can be expressed in this world. Not just Ein Sof, not just infinity. As you said, Moshe, like you said that, it's overwhelming. People cannot even live. It has to be contained. It has to be contained in midas. And when we have these containers, the midas are containers. These containers, they contain the light. So it can be expressed, and at the same time, it doesn't overwhelm. Right? The same thing happens by every single person. Because every Jew is actually Chelek Elokam Imah. Each and every one of us is a piece of godliness, right? Is what we are. And the main godliness is in the heart. Why in the heart? Why not in the brain? The answer is that the brain has a limit. Brain can understand what it can understand. It cannot understand what it cannot understand. The heart, however, has no limitations. The heart can believe in a Kadosh Baruch Hu. The heart can perceive, can contain infinity. No problem. The heart has no boundaries. So the Mishkan Elokus is in the heart. That's why when we learned Torah Lamedaled that we just finished, that you're supposed to pida b'chochmas v'hagus libitfunos, that when you're speaking Kadosh Baruch Hu, you're speaking into your own heart. What does Kadosh Baruch Hu and my heart have to do with one another? The answer is your heart is where Kadosh Baruch Hu is. Is Mishkan the Lakus Kadosh Baruch Hu. And the light of the fire of the heart is infinite. And a person has to constrict what they call the orot, what they call the lights, the enthusiasm, there's like no end, like you can't exist like that. As Moshe said, it's overwhelming. It has to be constricted, it has to be put, it has to be contained. So a person has to contain his enthusiasm, and that creates a vacuum in a person's heart. So if I'm not enthusiastic about, getting to the Kodesh Baruch Hu, then I'm separate from Kodesh Baruch Hu, to be honest, right? When I'm enthusiastic and I'm burning Kodesh Baruch Hu, me and Kodesh Baruch Hu are one. But when I lose my enthusiasm, or when I taper down my enthusiasm, I'm separate from Hashem, right? That's the Chal HaPonah. That's the vacant space. And it has to be that way. I have to do it because I'm just enthusiasm, to no end. I can't learn anything. I can't understand anything. It's just one big scream. So it has to be, you got to take it back. And within that vacant space, that kivyochol, you're not as enthusiastic, there you can build the middles, the chesed, the gvur, the tiferes, and so forth. He says, V'alev, says Rabbeinu, v'atzayir shel hamidos. The heart is the one that formats the middles, the containers. The heart creates the containers. So the elokus, which is in the heart, can be contained, so it can be expressed. Because it's just Ein Sof, it's like boom, overwhelming. Hold it back. Hold it back in a systematic way, not just hold it back so, so you're separate from Kodesh Baruch Hu. Hold it back so you can build a relationship with Hashem. The heart is the painter, the one, the creator of the midos. What does it mean? There is a wisdom in the heart with which the midos are created. In the heart of everybody who has a wise heart, I have given Chachma. Torah says this when they build a Mishkan, right? So what Rabbeinu is telling us here, that in the heart, there's wisdom. Wisdom. And the wisdom of the heart, is the thing that creates the midos and constricts them. And the Ikar Yitzir, the main creation, Rabbeinu says, Hoiso b'chochma. How do you create anything? With your wisdom. Right? You use your wisdom to create things. But it's more than just that. He says, V'ikar Yitzir, Hoiso b'chochma, k'mo shekosuv, kulam b'chochma siso. You all made them b'chochma. So al pipshat, you understand that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made everything wisely. That everything that exists is wrought together and it's worked and it's turned, with tremendous wisdom. There's also a more simple, direct meaning. That the Chochmah is the place, the sphere of Chochmah is the place that it's the first sphere of the 10 spheres, and from that emanated all the other spheres, all the other tools, all the other containers. Nimtza shalev v'atzayir. The heart is the mechanism that creates the midas. It creates the containers. Kmo shekosov tzur levavi. Tzur levavi. It means that there is tzur, there is tzura, there is creation, there is form. There's a formating. There is section of form in the heart. Tzur levavi. Now, about that, it says, yes, there is, it says, eats Yetzirah Latav, Levish. The Yetzirah, when you create something, you can create something good. Chas v'chalila, you can create something bad. Kmo shamu Chazal, Chachamim Zichron Levacha said, Vayitzer Hashem Elokim es ha'adam. And Hashem Elokim, as you said, Hashem Elokim, right? Hashem Elokim, you have both names, Hashem and Elokim. Hashem, which is Rachmim, Elokim, which is Din. It says Vayetzer Hashem Elokim. This Vayetzer, the word is written with two Yudim. Usually Yatzar, when somebody did something in past tense, is Yud, Tzadik Reish. He created, he crafted, he formed. It says, Vayetzer Elokim, and Hashem created, is written with two Yudim. Why? Why is it spelled like that? God explains, he says, because there is one Yud for Yitzira for good, and one Yud to denote a Yitzira for bad. Because these are the two Yitzirim, these are the two inclinations, Yetzatov and Yetzirah. One Yud is for Yetzatov, one Yud is for Yetzirah. They're both necessary. Dainu to walk. So what is Yetzatov and Yetzirah? Hainu machshavas toivus, good thoughts, and Yetzatov, good thoughts. I'm going to learn. I'm going to give. I'm going to help. You know, I'm going to guard my eyes. I'm going to daven. That's Yetzatov. Good thoughts are the Yetzatov. Umachshavas ruach. They're the Yetzirah. Bad thoughts are the Yetzirah. Ki ikar Yetzarim, the main inclinations, the main Yetzarim, are machshavas v'chochmas shebalev. The chochmas and the thoughts in the heart, that's the Yetzer. I mean, you have what you call, brain thoughts. When you articulate things in your own mind, you're thinking. But that's just an expression of the Yetzer. The Yetzer for good, which is expressed in thoughts, in good thoughts. The Yetzer for bad, these are the machshavas. So when a person thinks good thoughts, that's when he is elevating the Yetzer Tov. And when a person thinks chas v'shalom bad thoughts, that's Yetzer Hara. As it says in Bereshit,
The person has bad thoughts.
that's giving ascendancy Yetzer Hara. You're letting Yetzer Hara in. You're giving the expression. You're letting the shake. It's in the door. As it says in Bereshit, the HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought them up. Why? It says, Ki yetzer machshavas liboy rak kol hayom. He says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I'm going to annihilate men. Why? Ki yetzer machshavas liboy, because the yetzer of the thoughts of the heart of man is just bad all day long. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided to put the world in the mikveh. That's the mabul. That comes to teach you that the main Yetzarim, is the thoughts. And when a person thinks bad thoughts, he may think, okay, so I had an episode, where I let some, things in. It's not so simple. It makes an impact. It makes an imprint. He's stuffing up that vacuum in the bria. You have a bell. A bell has this what's it called? The thing that whatever the name is, that little thing is hanging in the bell. A bell. What's that thing inside that makes the noise? I know, but what's it called? That's a name.
It's called the bell.
Okay, in Hebrew it's inbal. Okay, that's that little. So the only way that a bell can make a noise, if there is space around it, the bell itself, there's air inside the bell, and that thing bangs against, the circumference, against the body of the bell, and it makes a sound. What happened when you stuff it up? You stuff the bell up with cotton wool or whatever. Not only, from the inside, even from the outside. Clapper? Okay.
Clapper.
Now, what happens if not only that a bell needs, this quote unquote vacuum to make a sound, not only from inside, but also from without. If you put a bell, inside cotton wool, that it covers it completely, that clapper can bang it until the cows come home. That, it won't ring. So there has to be space from the outside and space from inside. Then it reverberates. The bad thoughts, what they do is that they stuff the cholaponi, which is so necessary to be poni, to be vacant, so you can give expression to the godliness in your heart through the midas. You stuff it up, the heart becomes hard as stone. It says, when a person thinks bad thoughts, he verstops the space of the bria. Shisham is galus amidas, because that is the space is dedicated for the expression, for the creation, for the existence of the midas. In other words, that's the bell with the thing inside it. So the bell can have expression, can ring only when there's air around it and there's air inside it. The midas all have, between the midas there is kivyocho vacuum, because I think it will be all one thing. So that space is essential. Bad thoughts verstoop the chalal abriya. So the midas cannot be expressed. The heart is the painter, the creator of the worlds. In other words, that's the creator, that's the factory of the midas. Rabbeinu says as follows. Because really, commensurately with how much excitement and motivation there is in a Jewish heart, there's no possibility for the midas to have any expression. It's all one big, running, screaming, as Moshe says, overwhelming. In other words, you cannot serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu step by step with your midas. If you're just excited, just running, slow down. Slow down is that symptom. It's always in the meters. Here you are helping. Here you're preventing something bad from happening. You're using chesed, using gvura, using rachamim. You are able to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu with it. But if it's all just one light, one big excitement, you can't serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You're just burning. Okay. Baruch Hashem, wonderful, beautiful. But that's HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, so you'll be able to, so step by step, to build the relationship with the HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You have to, serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu one step at a time with good midas. Ki orla have a yusor, because the light of the enthusiasm of a Jewish person who adinsof is infinite. Because your shtickle godliness, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is infinite. Your enthusiasm is infinite. Your innate enthusiasm is infinite. Has no end. And so there's no end and no goes, okay, I reached my limit to the yearning of a Jewish person to HaKadosh Baruch Hu by his very nature. So you have to rein in, you have to hold back that enthusiasm, that excitement. You have to hold it back, tame it down. You have to harness it. The harnessing is the meters. So you can leave a vacant space in the heart. Moshe Kosov, David HaMelech said, "V'libi cholol b'kirbi." David HaMelech, when he said, in Tehillim, it says that David HaMelech said in Torah Munalef, and my heart is a vacuum inside me. He said on the fact that David HaMelech was able to kill off Yetzirah completely. No, it's horrible. How did he do it? He said that David HaMelech did it with fasting. With fasting. David HaMelech fasted with Tanias. That's how David HaMelech killed Yetzirah. The Paparoi says, even though the David HaMelech HaShalom says that possible, but the fact that he was able to do away with the Yetzirah, as Chazal said, still, the root of that thing, that also in the beginning of the, David HaMelech says about the end of that, right? He was able to do away with the Yetzirah. But the Paparoi says that the same thing applies that before you start that way. You have to rein in, you have to harness the excitement. Because your heart wants, to run screaming to the hills so that you can actually come to express the galus expression of the midas. Afterwards, Yetzirah wants to spoil, to ruin the creation. It wants to ruin that holy vacant space.
Why is he there? Yetzirah, why is he there?
The Yetzirah is the thing that when you want to become a champion, you have to run the distance. You can't take a car. Now, taking a car is a lot easier than running. You can ask about Avram, he's running. If you want to develop muscles, you have to lift weights. You have to lift weights. If you want to develop muscles,
Yeah,
you have to lift weights.
yeah, okay.
In other words, you improve when you move against the difficulty. The Yetzirah is there for you to build the midas fighting the Yetzirah. You can't do it without Yetzirah. But if the Yetzirah just run away with it, verstopst the Teichal upon it. by pushing Yitzhar, by preventing Yitzhar from coming in, this is how you build the midas. You're preserving the chol upon. Once you let the Zohar in, it verstops the chol upon, the midas cannot be built. And that's, that's what David Melech says, that he was able to vacant his heart properly, the way it's supposed to be. He fought against Yitzhar to the point that now the heart is clean. It's only just discovered, the midas. That seems to be but that by reining in, by harnessing the excitement, the enthusiasm, you can arrive at gradual expression of the midas. Chesed, Gvur, Tiferes, Netzach, Chod. And in other words, to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, step by step. The midah, Drago, midah, going up. And with good thoughts in your heart. Meaning the good thoughts in your heart. What happens is that bad thoughts enter in. They just come in. They don't ask your permission. Before you know, boom, suddenly there's a what are you doing? Who invited you? So the Yetzirah tells you, you don't understand. I'm you.
I'm you.
I'm you.
Well,
You want to think me. You want these thoughts. I'm you.
I don't have to be invited. Like it's
Yeah,
you're me or
yeah, I'm you. That's a lie. Next Wednesday, when we're starting Terech Chav Gimel in Yitz Hashem, on the Zoom thing, when Rabbeinu says that Akdoma of Savada Be'atuna, there's a famous Maisa in the Gemara that speaks about the Rabbi Yeshua and was the wisest, Chakima de Yudai. It was the Chacham used to send him to Rome, to plead the cases of the Jews, because he was like the biggest Chacham. The whole Maisa, which B'ezrat Hashem will tell, but the thing is that in this particular Maisa, they say that, tell us a lie. Tell us a lie. The Sabbath Be'atuna, the Chachamim of the Sitra Achron, they said, we'll ask you questions to prove who's smarter, who's wiser. So they ask him, tell us a lie. He said, well, we had a mule that gave birth. And the baby mule had a note around its neck that said that you owe my father's house 100,000 shekels. So the Chacham said, so the Atuna says, since when can a mule give birth? So Rabbi Yeshua told him, well, these are false words. This is a lie. You want me to tell you a lie? That's a lie. The whole Maisa is very strange. I mean, they said to him, tell us a lie. And he told them. So what did they come and say? No, that's a lie. What's going on? You asked him to say a lie, right? She told you a lie. So when he said, no, that's a lie.
That's the end of it.
Yeah,
it's a lie.
You asked for a lie, you got a lie.
I mean, even children don't play that way. I mean, it looks like, inane. What are you talking about? So what is he saying to them? When they say, tell us a lie, and he tells them a lie, and they say, hey, it's a lie. what he tells them is not, I'll tell you words which will deceive you, which will cheat you. That's not what I'm going to tell you. Because so tell us a lie, I can tell you anything. This is made by Gucci. It's just, you can tell them anything. To swear that it costs $100. It's a lie. I mean, what do you mean tell us a lie?
In other words, what they want is a lie that could deceive a person can't. It's not an outward lie.
You're saying very good. That's exactly the point. The point is that they said, what is a lie? Tell us a lie that is so convincing and so overwhelming
That looks like the truth.
that not only looks like the truth, it becomes the truth for anybody, even when you know that it's a lie, it's still the truth. As we'll learn in Torah Chav Gimel, it says that's the Tavis moment.
The Arabs are very good at that.
No, the Arabs are lying, they're cheating you.
Whatever they say is the truth.
No. The Arabs don't know how to lie. The Arabs don't know how to lie. They don't know how to lie. What?
Smooth talk.
No, what's that? But that's
That's
cheating. That's cheating. No, we're not talking about. We're talking about a lie that is so immense that it looks like the truth. Rabbeinu says that's the Yetzirah of money. The entire world is running after money. They have magazines that talk about money. Everybody's talking about money. Everybody lives in it. It's such a lie. We won't talk too much about it. We'll talk about it on next Wednesday when we learn Terech Av Gimel.
So who were they taking? Who were they talking? The Chachamim were talking to the.
No, that's Rabbi Yeshua was talking to Saba de Beatuna, the Chachamim of the Greeks.
Oh, the Chacham. Oh,
No, the Greeks.
So they said the Chachamim said to the Greeks, "Tell us a lie."
No, the Greeks told Rabbi Yeshua.
Oh, you sure to tell a lie?
Yeah,
Oh.
it was a contest. Who is wiser, Chachma Israel or the Chachma of Esau? This whole Indian, we'll tell the Maisim Hashem. This whole Indian is the confrontation between Yaakov and Esau. That's what the Vilna Gaon said.
So who said that's a lie? The Greeks.
They told him. When he told them about the mule that gave birth, they said, well, since when can a mule give birth? So he said, that's a lie.
Who was the one that told the story about the mule, the Chachamim?
Rabbi Yeshua.
Yeshua, what?
Rabbi Yeshua.
Oh, they confronted him.
Saba de Atuna asked Rabbi Yeshua to tell them a lie.
Yeah.
In other words, they asked him to tell them what the source of lie is. What the shirish of lie is. Saba de Atuna, the Greeks.
Yeah, the Greeks.
So he told them the mice with the mule.
Yeah, okay, so they didn't agree with they said.
And they said, how can a mule, that's a lie.
Yeah.
What are they talking about? We'll talk about it.
You want to hear something that's deceiving, that seems like a lie.
No, it's far deeper than that. We'll talk about it in Hashem in Terech Av Gimel. So they actually meant to tell him that it's possible that there is something out of money. There is something, that's everlasting from all the money that people make. All the richest man in the world, in Forbes, whatever it is, there's some kind of everlasting, mahus to that.
From the sheker, you mean?
Yeah.
Some kind.
Okay, so.
The sheker today, yeah, it's probably referred to as sheker.
So we're talking the machshavas tevis in the heart. When you're able to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu with machshavas tevis in the heart. The good stuff in the heart, these are Yetzirah and Tov. This is the good Yetzirah Tov. Danis galim peulos umidos tevis. This is how the actions of the good midos. I need Yetzirah Tov. You can create, you can develop goodness. You can build something good. Like when you learn a profession. I'm gonna take the wood and I'm gonna cut it. I'm gonna be the world's best carpenter. I'm just gonna, cut and this and shave and whoa, wait. First of all, learn how to hold a saw, and then learn how, first of all, here I'm giving you wood, and I want you to, to polish it. I want to be a carpenter when you're giving me to polish all day long. What I'm going to do? Just cutting all day long. Let's cut another one, and cut another piece of wood, and cut another piece of wood. No, with your excitement, you never become a carpenter. You have to rein in your excitement. So learn only when you hold back and you're thinking, okay, I want to learn this fast, then I want to learn that task, then I want how to do this. And ultimately I can create, a good carpentry creation. The machshavas tovos, step by step, enable you to make yitzir latav, a yitzira creation for good. But when a person thinks bad thoughts, he verstops the heart. He plugs up the heart. That's called the skin that forms, it's getting late. And he came late. He ruins the bria. We'll just take 2 more minutes. And it's a tipshus alev. Umaltem esalas levavchem. Targum is tipshus lipchem. It ruins the chokhmah. When a person thinks good thoughts in his heart to serve Hashem, his heart becomes tzur levavi. Lili b'chal b'kirbi, and so on. You are able to, or that in the heart all the pillars. But when he thinks fakir, when he thinks the opposite, he ruins it. At Hashem, this is up to here for this week. And Hashem will continue next week. Thank you so much, everybody.